This is the synthetic signal report for Thursday, March 26, 2026, in the afternoon. Today's analysis covers the escalating response to the LiteLLM supply chain attack, the introduction of Turbolite for high-speed database queries from cloud storage, and a controversial revote on the European chat control surveillance bill. We also examine Apple's decision to discontinue the Mac Pro, AMD's new dual-cache Ryzen processor, and a milestone in particle physics at CERN involving the transport of antimatter by truck. Finally, we look at new FDA approvals for Hunter syndrome and the biological challenges of space colonization. We are tracking a critical security incident involving LiteLLM, a widely used library for interfacing with multiple language models. Malicious versions of the package, specifically versions 1.8, 2.7, and 1.82.8, were identified on the Python Package Index, or PyPI. This is a significant update to our previous reporting on TeamPCPS activity. The compromised code was designed to exfiltrate sensitive environment variables, including authentication tokens and API keys for services like OpenAI and Anthropic. Technical analysis of the response shows that the attack was identified within minutes of the upload. However, the automated nature of modern deployment pipelines means many internal development environments may have already pulled the tainted code. Organizations are advised to pin their dependencies to known good versions and rotate all secrets that were active in environments where these specific LiteLLM versions were installed. A new development has emerged under the radar that could redefine how developers handle large-scale data at the edge. A project called Turbolite has introduced a specialized virtual file system for SQLite, written in Rust. This system allows for complex database joins directly from Amazon S3 object storage with sub-250 millisecond performance. This is a signal from the future because it addresses the traditional latency bottleneck of cloud storage. Usually, running a database over a network-attached object store is too slow for production use. Turbolite uses aggressive caching and optimized random access reads to make S3 perform like a local disk for read-heavy workloads. While the project is currently experimental, it demonstrates a path toward truly serverless, petabyte-scale databases that do not require expensive, persistent compute clusters. In the European Union, digital sovereignty is back under the spotlight as the European People's Party has forced a revote on the mass surveillance bill known as chat control. This follows a previous decision to reject the proposal, which would have mandated AI-powered scanning of all private messages. The push for a second vote suggests a deep institutional divide over the future of end-to-end encryption. Privacy advocates argue that the bill creates a permanent backdoor in the continent's digital infrastructure, while proponents claim it is a necessary tool for law enforcement. The outcome of this revote will determine if the European Union remains a stronghold for private communication or transitions toward a more invasive surveillance model. AI workloads are fundamentally reshaping data center architecture, moving away from traditional hierarchical networks toward a combined memory and storage fabric. Modern inference tasks are less forgiving of network jitter and latency. As a result, data centers are being designed where the network itself acts as a massive, distributed pool of memory. This shift coincides with major moves in the consumer hardware market. Apple has officially discontinued the Mac Pro Tower, ending a 20-year run for the workstation. Industry analysts suggest that the Mac Studio and the upcoming Thunderbolt 5 standard have made the traditional internal expansion slots of the Mac Pro redundant for most professional users. Simultaneously, AMD has announced the Ryzen 9950X 3D2. This is the first desktop processor to feature two distinct 3D V-cache dies, totaling 208 megabytes of cache. This hardware is specifically optimized for cache-heavy workloads like local model fine-tuning and complex simulations, aiming to bypass the physical performance limits known as the memory wall. Researchers at CERN have achieved a world first by successfully transporting antiprotons in a lorry across the laboratory's main site. This experiment proves that antimatter can be safely contained in a portable trap, and moved between facilities. This is a huge leap toward sharing antimatter between labs across Europe for high-precision measurements that are impossible to conduct near the high radiation zones of the main accelerators. In the biological sector, the Federal Drug Administration has approved a new medicine from Denali Therapeutics for the treatment of Hunter syndrome. This decision is being closely watched as the agency has recently tightened its standards for rare disease treatments. Furthermore, a study from Australian researchers has identified a new hurdle for long-term space colonization. Data indicates that in zero-gravity environments, sperm cells lose their ability to navigate and reach an egg. This suggests that without artificial gravity, human reproduction in space may be biologically impossible, posing a direct challenge to current plans for Mars settlements and long-duration orbital habitats. Community sentiment is currently focused on a cluster of critical vulnerabilities. A high-priority flaw in the CERN knowledge management system allows remote attackers to traverse directories and expose sensitive personal files. Additionally, the ECT distributed key-value store, which is foundational to Kubernetes, is facing a major authentication bypass in versions prior to 3.6.9. The EV charging sector is also on alert after a series of buffer overflows were discovered in the Everest software stack. These flaws could allow a remote attacker to crash charging stations or corrupt memory during the initialization of the communication interface. Finally, Google has set a firm timeline for the year 2029 to migrate its core authentication services to post-quantum cryptography. This matches a broader industry trend where organizations are preparing for the eventual arrival of quantum computers capable of breaking current encryption standards. Wikipedia has also taken a firm stance by banning editors from using AI to generate articles, citing the risk of factual erosion and the loss of human oversight in the world's largest open knowledge base. This concludes the Synthetic Signal Report for Thursday,